Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad. I think, Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless all of you. A lot has been said today, a lot of information for us to take in and to understand and inshallah to act upon. What I wanted to say is something very short, and that is in the Quran, 2 ayat in Surah Muzammil. And these really, I think, are so important for all of us. We know, of course, that Surah Muzammil was one of the early surahs in Mecca that was revealed during a time when the propaganda, the campaigning against the Prophet of Allah had begun, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there was therefore a degree of consternation, anxiety, not knowing what's going to happen. And then Allah really emphasizes particular points where He says, subhanahu wa ta'ala, a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Rabbul mashriq wal maghrib, Rabbul mashriqi wal maghrib, la ilaha illahu fattakhidhu wakila. Allah reminds Him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reminds all of us, in whatever predicament we find ourselves in, whatever anxiety, whatever troubles, whatever situation we're in, we remind ourselves, you are the most fortunate people. Allah is giving this message, we are the most fortunate people. Because Allah says, Rabbul mashriqi wal maghrib. Allah is the Lord of the East and the West. And what this does is it allows nothing else. Because Allah is saying, Allah is the Lord of the East and the West. Then there's nobody else in between. That's it. Allah's Lordship covers everything, East and West. That is in an earthly sense and in a cosmic sense, in a heavenly sense. La ilaha illahu. And there is no other ilah except Him. So Allah is the Lord of the East and the West. All power ultimately belongs to Allah. And Allah is the only God. There is no competing rivalries or godships, nothing. It's only Allah. Only Allah. So what do you do then? فَاتَّخِذْهُ وَكِيلًا. So take Allah as your defender. So take Allah as your wakil, is the one that you place your trust in the one that you believe is going to defend you. Take Allah as the best disposer of affairs. وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ وَهَجِّرْهُمْ هَجْرًا جَمِيلًا. And Allah says, and be patient about what they're saying against you, to the Prophet ﷺ. Hold to a higher ethic, a higher value, an Islamic value. Be patient about what they're saying about you and turn aside from them with a noble dignity. Turn aside from them in a jamila, beautiful and noble dignity. And I really think that these 2 ayat are so, the whole Quran is important for all of us at all times. But in this situation, I think these 2 ayat are speaking to us a very clear message. We know that when the munafiqeen came on the day of Uhud, and they began to say, like Allah quotes them in the Quran, إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ فَخْشَوْهُمْ فَزَادُهُم إِيمَانًا وَقَالُوا حَسْبُنَا اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. Allah says that when the munafiqeen gathered around them, and they said, look, you're outnumbered, you people. You have nothing. You're weak in resources. Your people are, look at the state of you. Nothing. You're weak. You're all of this. And Allah quotes them in the Quran that they said, إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ. The people have gathered against you. So, what is the recourse? What do you do then? فَخْشَوْهُمْ. Fear them. Fear them. Live in the state of apathy. Live in the state of fear. As if you can't do anything because you think, well, what's the point? Because we're so outnumbered, we're so weak. And then when the Sahaba heard these words, Allah says, فَزَادَهُمْ إِيمَانًا. It increased them in iman. When they heard these words from these hypocrites, it increased the believers in iman because they knew Rabbul mashriq wal maghrib, la ilaha illahu fattakhidhu wakila. Allah is always the Lord of the East and the West. And there's no other ilah except Him. And they've already taken Allah as wakil. That's already been the mindset, the mentality of Sahaba. Right from the beginning, Surah Muzammil, early Surah. Right from the beginning. That's the way that they're going to act. That's the mode of their responsibility on earth. And then Allah says that they said, وَقَالُوا, and they said, حَسْبُنَ اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. That's it. Allah is wakil because they took Allah as wakila. Sufficient for Allah, for us is Allah and the best disposer of affairs. we learn in Sahih Muslim that when Ibrahim alayhi salam, before he was about to be thrown in the fire, and imagine he's looking upon the fire, and this fire has been raging and blazing for so long, and it's a humongous fire. And you would imagine Ibrahim alayhi salam as being like minuscule in size in comparison to the fire, right? So you see this in a symbolic sense. You think the whole world is against you. All of this fire is burning, blazing. They're saying this against you in the papers. They're saying that against you in the media. They're discrediting you here, saying this about you there. And it says, وَحِينَ أُلْقِيَ فِي النَّارِ Ibrahim, before he was thrown in the fire, alayhi salam, قال, he said, حَسْبِيَ اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. Sufficient for me is Allah. Sufficient for me is Allah, and the best disposer of affairs. And this is something that we should all remember at all times. Whatever you're facing, whatever issue you're facing, whatever they're saying, whatever they're doing, we would react, we must respond, we must learn. And may Allah bless the brothers of Cage for all the work that they've done. But always remember, there's an internal struggle in our hearts. An internal struggle in our hearts. Never believe it is our actions alone that is deciding anything. No, it's not. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah who is the supporter of the believers. He is the defender of the mu'min. And it is about our reliance on Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our closeness to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our closeness to the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On the day of Uhud, afterwards there was a ghazwa of Hamra al-Asad. Hamra al-Asad. When the mushrikeen, they said, you know what, it is not enough that we engaged them and we injured so many of them, and the Prophet himself was injured, we must finish it off by killing him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so then they said, let's do this. And so the Nabi sallam, he heard that this is what they're planning. And so in the Kitab al-Maghazi mentions that the Prophet told Bilal radiallahu anhu, he said, go and give the Sahaba, go and give them a message, and tell all of the people who were fighting yesterday in Uhud. He said, tell them, لا يخرج معنا إلا من شهد القتال بالأمس. He said, go and tell them, nobody can come out with us next day except those who fought with us yesterday. This is such an empowering message. And you would think, psychologically, because these are people who are already bleeding, they're injured, they've lost family members, they're grieving, they're mourning. But the Prophet said, no, nobody comes out with us the next day except those who were there yesterday. Meaning those who have already seen the battle, have already been bruised and injured, but that is a show of strength. It is a show of strength and dignity. And one of those was Sa'd ibn Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, who was already injured and he was crippled and his wounds were open. But when he heard that this was a message coming from Bilal that the Prophet gave him, he prepared himself once again to go out the next day. And this shows that we have to have an unflinching resolve. Unflinching resolve. Always maintain this determination. The way that we have compassion. Allahu Akbar, and Jazakallah khair for the brother who mentioned about it, we believe in Islamic values. There is no sense of, we have utmost pride in this, the Islamic value system. We know that, and I'll mention this inshallah as the last point. In Mecca, when Nabi Sallallahu was initially, he was Sadiq al-Amin. He was regarded as the most trustworthy and truthful person. And then suddenly he becomes Sahirun Kadhab. They're saying he is a magician and he is a liar. And although they were averse to the message of La ilaha illallah, the belief in the oneness of Allah, there is a difference between the way they saw the Prophet before he was a Prophet, as Salih, as a man who used to do good to others. He used to join ties of kinship and feed the poor and good to the orphans. But then he became Muslih. He became a man who now tried to make that an establishment. Those doing of good deeds, establish them in society. And that is where the problem lies. In the Quran, Allah says, Allah would not يُهْلِكَ الْقُرَى بِظُلْمٍ. Allah would not, وَمَا كَانَ رَبُّكَ لِيُهْلِكَ الْقُرَى بِظُلْمٍ. Allah would not destroy a people, when in those people there are muslihun. And Allah doesn't say salihin, good people do good things, but muslihun, those who have islah, those who are doing practically something good to reform the situation of people. that is a preserved situation. And the ulama, they say that one muslih is ahabbu ilallahi min mi'atu salih. That one muslih is more beloved to Allah than 100 pious people, because the muslih, by him Allah preserves this deen, because he's not only establishing something personally in himself, but he's making it something established in society. And for the work of Cage, it is establishing the obligation of adl, of justice. In the Quran, Allah says, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا لِتَكُونِ شُهَدَاءَ عَلَى النَّاسِ. Allah said, Allah has made you a middle nation, a balanced people in the middle, so that you become witnesses unto mankind. And the scholars say what this means is al-wastul adl. The middleness is justice. فَقَدْ كَانَ الْعَدْلِ مِنْ أَهَمَّ يَجِبْ عَلَى هَذِي الْأُمَّةِ. And so justice then becomes from the greatest obligations upon this ummah. And that is an obligation that we should be committed to, be unflinching, unstirred in our resolve towards this. May Allah bless all of you for always coming, alhamdulillah. May Allah bless the brothers of Cage and sisters of Cage for the great work that they're doing. And may Allah make them have, inshallah, us as an ummah have many victories to come. May we never lose hope, never lose trust. Always remember you have Allah. Oh Allah, the Prophet would say, Allahumma la aish illa aish al-akhirah. Oh Allah, there is no life except the life of the akhirah. Everything we're doing is for ghad, is for tomorrow's day. Everything you're doing is for tomorrow's day. And remember that day. Remember that day. Remember the victors and the losers on that day. Remember your sincerity, your intention, your work, and what it's worth on that day. That is the key thing for us all to remember. And I will finish by saying this. I know I got to finish. And I think this is really important. This is an advice the Prophet gave to Abu Dharr radiallahu anhu. And Abu Dharr was a very, quite a peculiar, a very interesting Sahabi. And the Prophet once says to him, he said to him, Abu Dharr relates himself and he says, Awsani Khalili bi sab'a. My Khalil, my intimate friend, gave me 7 pieces of advice. 7 pieces of advice. And Abu Dharr, and there was, problems happened later, and Abu Dharr lived through those problems. And the Prophet, and the first thing he says, Amarani bi hubbil masakin. The Prophet commanded me to love the poor. Look at that. Look at that as a value. The Prophet commanded me to love the poor. Secondly, Amarani, commanded me, an anzur ila man huwa duni wa la anzur ila man huwa fawqi. Commanded me to look to those who have less than me, not to those who have more than me. Allahu Akbar. Try and live like this. Teach this as a lifestyle living for your children. Amarani, and la as'al ahadan shay'an. Commanded me not to ask anybody anything. Put that trust in Allah. You ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amarani, an asl al-rahim. Commanded me to join ties of kinship. Wa amarani, an la akhafu fillahi lawmata la'im. And he commanded me never to fear the blame of the blamer. Never fear what people are saying in all the lies and propaganda and stereotypes that they insinuate and they propagate. Never fear the blame of the blamer. وَأَمَرَنِي أَنْ أَقُولَ الْحَقِّ وَإِنْ كَانَ مَرًّا. And he commanded me to speak the truth even if it hurts. Speak the truth even if it's bitter. But you have to speak the truth because your obligation is to the truth. Because you are an advocate, a paragon for justice. That's your role. And the last one, وَأَمَرَنِي, and he commanded me to say an ukthir, to say a lot of لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. There is no power and there is no might except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? There is no power and there is no might except with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And always remember, because today's struggle, inshallah, there may be in life many struggles to come, like this one. And always remember, Allah is in control, Allah is above us, right? And that Allah has us, inshallah, so we ask Allah to forgive us, have mercy upon us, and to always be in support of us and on the Muslimin. Jazakumullah khairan wa assalamu alaikum.